Indiana Jones. Hey guys, we're doing something a little bit different this time. Since the last couple of videos were so involved, I'm scaling back and just focusing on one single issue of a comic. If you saw my Conan video, you'll know that Indiana Jones ranks as one of my top 4 all-time heroes, and this week I'm looking at the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, #1! Here are all of my Marvel Indiana Jones comics. A few of them I just recently found in the dollar boxes at my local comic shop. These two specifically I've had since I was a kid. Yes, folks! Real-life kid comics! Really, one of these should have been the focus of the review, but I needed an excuse to read the first issue, and I felt like there would have been more excitement involved in the story of the first issue rather than a later middle issue. But here's a perfect example of why this channel exists and represents how often it would be before I went back to a comic shop or anywhere that sold comics for that matter. From the ads throughout this issue, I now know that there were places that would send you back issues, but as a young tyke, that wasn't even in the realm of feasibility at the time. Man, I swear it's like that nipple is staring at me. Also, I always thought this guy was the Penguin as a kid. So, let's get started. I like to think that no matter what team your kid likes, they automatically get a Dodgers poncho. Here are the responsible parties this time around. Man, I swear, John Byrne gets around. Really wish they'd re-release the Man of Steel books he did. Our opening shot has Indy practicing his whip skills on a student when Marcus Brody comes in freaking out over what he's doing. He knocks the cigarette from her lips and says she's earned her extra credit. That really doesn't help convincing you that Indy isn't just a psychopath. Geez, women really have been abused, I guess. Wait a minute, an A to an A+? Maybe this girl's a psychopath. Geez, just take the A, you overachiever. So, initially, I have no idea what college this is, and trying to find out seems like a mystery unto itself. It appears that Indy originally taught at Marshall College, then at some point left and taught at Barnett College before returning to Marshall College, I believe in the final film. There's no actual date set at the beginning of the comic, and the comic was made roughly 5 years before Last Crusade, so we'll assume that it's Marshall College. This really did give me some trouble figuring out. On a side note, Marshall College is named after Frank Marshall, one of the producers. And I am absolutely certain nobody cares about this but me. Marcus suddenly remembers that an old student, Charlie Dune, we'll go with Dune, is waiting in Indy's office to see him. Indy remarks that Charlie was the best student he ever had, and Charlie tells him that he and his sister have discovered information about the legendary Icons of Ika Manon. Let's try that again. Icons of Ika Manon. When, oh no, danger appears to be lurking nearby. Charlie's hit with a thrown dagger when, Super Bubble, young kids! It's more delicious, it's smoother, it blows great bubbles. Hey, look at all the great tasting flavors! It's longer lasting, regular bubble gum. You know, who decided what regular bubble gum tastes like? Is there like an industry standard? Indy and Marcus immediately start rifling through this guy's stuff, rather than call an ambulance, and discover an address to an Edith Dune and a picture of a shrine. Indy does his best Superman impression and tells Marcus he's off to see the world while Marcus is supposed to call the cops. So naturally there's going to be a warrant out for Indy's arrest for fleeing the scene of a murder. But there's no time for that, because we're off to Africa. Chapter 2. Here we meet Edith Dune. He asks if she's received his wire about her brother being brutally murdered, and this is not the face of someone whose brother died less than 2 days ago. She leads him back to her hotel as ominous characters look on when, gasp! Someone has dumped all their trash out in Edith's bedroom. I'm kidding, the place has been ransacked. Suddenly, strange men burst into the room, and a fight instantly breaks out. In the midst of the struggle, someone fastball specials Edith out the window to her doom. Or did they? Indy takes the same shortcut, lashing his whip and swinging into the street, crashing into a fruit cart. I love this shot, even though it looks like he loses his whip. I love when they do multiple drawings of the characters to show the follow-through of the action. Suddenly, we have a callback to Marion in the basket chase from Raiders of the Lost Ark, as Indy pursues the kidnapper through the alleyways, only to come upon a dead end and Edith missing. Steel door slams shut, and the floor falls out from under his feet. Any comic or story with a trap door in a sealed room is an instant 10 out of 10. I could really stop the review right there. I love this shot. Rather than hang around with the rats, he decides to blast his way out of the tiny room, and instantly goes deaf from the noise. I'm assuming. Indy kicks open the door and comes face to face with our villain. Yeesh! I want a Daisy BB gun. Chapter 3. Man, we're moving right along. Solomon Black speaks perfect English, sits on a throne in the middle of a pile of gold, has Edith under guard, and denies threatening the pair despite throwing her out of a window. They discuss Charlie discovering the icons of Icamanen. Edith whines that she helped and no one ever listens to her, and tells Indy not to trust Solomon because he's only interested in the gold that the icons are made out of. And Indy says, yeah, he guessed that, which kind of chuckled out of me. Solomon threatens Indiana in a typical bad guy fashion, and coming soon, Spider-Man for the Atari Video Computer Entertainment System. Can't wait. Finally, Indy relinquishes. Dawn. Looked like, damn. The boat captain uses Edith's rough map and plots out where their mysterious island lays. We find its treacherous shores where several ships have run aground. And this instantly made me think of Indiana Jones and the Sargasso Pirates from Dark Horse Comics, where a bunch of ships have gotten stuck in this one spot in the middle of the ocean, and the people stranded there set up a piratey type community. And sorry guys, gonna have to take a minute here. Thor is telling me I get a free issue when I DOSed this subscribe. I gotta sign up. Hey look, more ads. Whoa! An Atlas body in 7 days? Heck yeah! I'll have to add it on top of the Atlas body I already have, of course. Disappearing monster blood. That kind of defeats the purpose of monster blood though, doesn't it? Yeah. Video game players wanted. Man, I didn't realize there were so many back issue dealers back then. Solomon sends Indy, Edith, and 2 of his men ashore to recover the icons, and instantly one of the goons is killed by arrows stepping onto the beach. Indy's quick to figure out what's going on, tossing his satchel onto the shore. Grizzly here points a gun at our heroes and tells them to get moving. I guess he's just gonna stay there. A smart minion, who would have thought? Indy uses a stick to sweep the beach for more tripwires, and they make it through an eerie black jungle devoid of animals or birds. They trek and climb until finally they discover Chapter 4! They've found it! The tower from the picture, which raises a question of how there was a picture of it in the first place, especially with the booby-trapped beach full of arrows. Meh. There's probably a backstory that could explain it. But they see no signs of life, and the only sound is that of their own breathing. They head down into the city and climb the steps to the tower. Inside, they find them, the icons, made of pure gold. They sniff around the room and find a stone that is hot to the touch, and Indy walks over to the statues along the wall. He grabs one to take back with him. Solomon can send more people to collect the others later on, when, shock and horror! Bones fall out of the broken legs, and Indy is clobbered in the back of the head. When he comes to, he's having Nam flashbacks of raiders screaming for Marion to shut her eyes. Then it becomes clear that these feathered fellas mean to dip him and Edith into molten gold to become the next icons. To be continued! If I can ever find issue 2. New Mutants ad, D&D ad, Lego ad, and done. The further adventures of Indiana Jones were collected into 3 omnibuses a number of years ago by Dark Horse, and stupidly, I either didn't know about them or just decided not to get them. Now they're online for completely reasonable prices, sure. I did end up buying the omnibuses of Dark Horse indie comics, which were pretty great and included the fan-favorite Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. Also, for no other reason, here's the rest of the indie comics I have. I especially like the smaller Adventures stories, which are similar to the Clone Wars Adventures comics that I've been looking for an excuse to reread sometime. They're all done in Genndy Tartakovsky's animated style. Was there anything I learned that I could apply to my own comic? I don't really know. I still want to play with different line qualities and get different brushes. I definitely want to play with the multiple figures in one panel to show the flow of action. And that's pretty much it. That being said, overall, it's not a bad start to an Indiana Jones comic series, and I would love to see where the story ends up. But for me, that's it for now. Come back soon for a new old action figure review. Subscribe, tell a friend, and thanks. Bye.
I've lost it.
Don't call me Junior.